Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, head on through some other conversation to have a good video game discussion. I'm Dan Tucker, and with me as always is El Ray.
Hey everybody, today's guest is known for 2 things. He is the namesake of the Mad Harry Art Challenges seeing on C3, but he's better known as the seed and button master for the Dad Gaming's Rocket League tournaments. It is madharryrackham, Garrett himself. How are you doing today?
I am phenomenal. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys having me be here. This is really exciting.
I'm excited to talk to you about all these games here because I'll have to go and say, I know you casted at, what is now a few weeks ago, and you said, well, this is my first time talking and casting. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I've definitely seen him before, but so I'm excited. Look at that. You're just breaking out everywhere. We're just going to hear a lot of Mad Harry, and I'm excited for it.
I'm excited too. Yeah, no, I think, a couple weeks ago was the first time me and Hoosier ended up casting a Wednesday night event for Rocket League, and that was actually, my first time. What's funny is we were actually talking to Joel, and Joel was like, hey, I need a video bit of you to put on our C3 promo, because I don't have any Mad Harry stuff. I have just don't have any video of you. I'm like, there's no way you don't have video of me. What are you talking about? And sure enough, they're like, okay, well, we got to get you to do let's have you do an event so we can get some clips. We got to get a GIF of you. We got to get a thing. We got to get the whole thing. So ended up being something we're like, all right, let's get that Wednesday night event so that at least we have a little bit. But did that. Now I'm on the podcast too. So it's been fun. See where else we can get me to show up.
Hey Dan, did you hear that pronunciation come through there?
I did.
That's 1 point for the Dan Tucker GIF team. So we're gonna have to start keeping a counter who says GIF and who's GIF on this podcast.
Oh yeah. No, it's GIF.
Walk away from it, Garrett. Walk away. We just take the W.
Team GIF tonight. All right, let's get into this list. So game 1, obviously, with you being a Rocket League person, is going to be Pokemon Red and Blue.
Obviously, being a Rocket League guy, obvly. Why not Pokemon first?
Right? Pokemon Red and Blue. So I'll start with who. Let's go with this. Who's the starter Pokemon?
It's got to be Squirtle. I was Pokemon Blue. That was my first version, was Blue, and he was on the cover. And he was the first choice, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
It's the correct choice. So tell us. So Pokemon Blue. You had that one first? Did you end up having both of them? How did this game end up top of the list?
So Blue made the list, I think, for a couple different reasons, and I had Blue first and only. Actually, I think I ended up with a red copy somewhere down the line. Ended up borrowing a buddy's to transfer some over, but it made the list for really 2 distinct reasons. One is it was, I think, one of the first games. So it came out when I was in 7th grade. So you're 10, 11 years old at that point. And it was just one of those games where it was the first time I was really emotionally connected to a game. You play a lot of Mario, a lot of this and that, a lot of other little platformers, whatever. Pokemon was the first time I actually felt connected, where I was like, oh, this is my Pokemon. I'm raising him. I'm doing this. You're 10, 11 years old. You feel almost responsible for it, like a pet, and then you build your team, and then you go through battles with them, and you train with them, and all this stuff. And it's just this really cool, almost emotional connection that you have, or at least I had with it. I don't know if you've I'm sure other people have experienced that, but that was kind of the first time I think that had ever been a thing for me. So that was a really unique experience. Even, I was telling El Ray before we were getting started here, I've been gaming since I remember, as far back as I remember. I've had an NES, and I've played a million other games. It's hard not to list, the very first games I played, but Pokemon, I think, is a standout one for obviously one reason being that emotional aspect of it. Moving down the line to just Pokemon in general, what it's brought to gaming. Obviously, there's been a million generations of them now. I'm a kind of a 151 purist. It was hard for me to get into the other iterations of it as the new generations came out. I grew up, stopped really focusing on heavily on Pokemon, even though it was such a cool interest. I'd watched the anime and things like that, but it wasn't. I never really pursued. I think I played Sun and Moon. I tried Pokemon Y. I tried to get into it, but it was just they tried to add way too many going forward. So I ended up. I'll always hold on to the nostalgia of Red and Blue just being the originals, I think.
So when you say the most connection. I get that. The whole like holding the animals and all that stuff. How'd you go about making your team? Because you had to go fight the Elite Four. Did that come into play, or was like, no, I'm gonna take these 6 best ones and call it a day?
No, dude, I had no strategy. Because you think about that era, there wasn't much like going to the internet for things or anything like that. So like, I didn't know anything. I had the training manual that came in the box and some buddies that I would talk to about it. But outside of that, there was no strategy. There was nothing. I think I had at one point, I had like a Blastoise, a Vaporeon, and a Lapras because I taught it Surf. So like I was like water Pokemon everywhere. So there was no strategy. I was just beefing people up. And I'm one of those people. Actually, Bucket made a really cool post the other day on Channel 3 about Hogwarts Legacy and how different people play the game differently. Are you a side quest guy until you beef your player up and then you just steamroll through the main course? So how do you play? That's very much me. I'm with Pokemon especially, where I don't want to be losing or even struggling against other trainers. So I'm hitting the tall grass hard and just XP grind and then just go through. It doesn't matter. I could be the weak, Pokemon in the situation. I'm the, water type against the electric, and I'm still going to beat you because of my power levels. But there was no strategy at all.
Were you bringing Pokemon up to level 100? Because I can tell you, I don't think I ever had a level 1 Pokemon. It just seemed such an amazing goal, and I know I never reached. Were you there?
I want to say I had 1 or 2 Pokemon there for sure. That was just like I said. That was more of my style, and well, I had them there, and then tragedy struck, and then I never actually finished. I never finished Pokemon. Never finished it. But so I say this: I played and I beat the Elite Four. I beat your the rival fight and all that. I was in the cave where Mewtwo was. Right. I was one of those kids that played under the covers at night. I had the little light thing, and late at night, so mom didn't know I was awake all hours. Distinctly, traumatic memory of. So I played, like I said, I was in the cave where Mewtwo was. I didn't want to start the engagement. I knew I didn't have my Master Ball because I'd wasted it on an Abra way back when. So I knew I had a challenging little catch it ahead of me with Mewtwo, and so I paused the game, saved it, put it away. The next day was Thanksgiving, and all this, my family came over to my house, and unfortunately I was like on the other side of the house hanging out with some of my friends and family, and I walk into the kitchen and I see my little cousin at the kitchen table with my Game Boy, and I could hear the Pokemon music going.
Oh no.
And before I could say anything, I heard the save file chime.
Yep.
And my heart dropped, and I ran over and grabbed it from him, and he was like, "Dude, I just caught this rock, and I've been playing for a little while. I'm glad I saved it. Otherwise, I might have, And I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, I named him Buttface. It's awesome. I love this game. This is so cool.
Well,
all of my progress was gone.
He started a new game?
He started a new game over the top of mine,
man.
and then saved it. He only caught like a couple Pokemon and then saved it because he didn't want to lose his progress.
And that was it? Was that the end of Pokemon for you?
That was essentially the end of Pokemon for me, because so one of the biggest things, and I think what that taught me at 11 years old, was you really don't get to play a game for the first time again. There's like going back, and I could rebuild that team, but not in the way I did it the first time. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things where it's like, I can't get that back.
Well, that game is a lot of work. But it doesn't feel like work because it's new. Like you said, it's new and you're going through it. Mm-hmm. That second time, yeah, I don't know if I could do it second.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so I never ended up with all 151, which is sad, but oh well.
So on your journey before it was abruptly ended, were you able to link cable up with people? Because that was the thing, to get the traded Pokemon for a couple extras.
I didn't start doing that until because I kind of made it a point after that. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to fill the Pokedex. I'm going to just try and go back and through it. And so I ended up finding some friends, and we did the link cable stuff, but I never ended up actually finishing it, just literally just based on the grind that I had to put in. I didn't realize it going into it, like how big that push was again. But yeah.
So were you, after all that and the tragedy struck and time would go by, did you ever get into any of the kind of like all the glitches and stuff that they found with the old games with Mew and missing No and kind of all that nonsense that you can mess around with?
I never did it personally. I had friends that I saw and watched do it, but I never tried it myself. No.
I was terrified of it because I remember seeing it as a kid, and they were like, "Yeah, but it might mess up your game." And I was the person that was like, "Oh my god, it might do it. I can't do it. Nah, I can't take this chance. It's because I'll be the one."
Yeah, exactly. There was no shot I was doing it before my save file was ruined, and then when my save file was ruined, it was like I could have done it, but I had already seen people do it, and it just didn't matter to me at that point.
No, I know we're going to get in. I know we're going to get into
the most tragic start. This is the most tragic start to a podcast we had. This is the saddest story ever.
It's so painful. It's like office level cringe painful.
I'm going to be thinking about this story at work tomorrow. Because I get it. I get that pain. I understand.
It's tough. It's tough. But I did redeem myself several years later. In fact, it wasn't terribly long ago. In Pokemon Go, I actually caught and filled the original Kanto decks in Pokemon Go, which isn't as hard. But I was very excited that I actually finished the Kanto decks in at least one version of Pokemon. So
there you go. There's the full circle to the story. Dan, move us on, please. Let's find hopefully something a little happier after that.
I have to ask though, because I know we don't get into the roguelikes until game 3, but does this all psychologically explain the desire to just grind the same thing over and over and over again? Is that some sort of suffering coming back to that save file?
Maybe.
Oh, wait, well, hold that for later. Ignore that. All right.
I will say one other point to Pokemon though is one of the fun things now is I don't have a ton of knowledge on the new stuff. There's literal trash bags as Pokemon, and so it's like crazy that there's so many out there. But it's fun now that my son is 5 and my daughter is like 3.5, and they are starting to get into Pokemon. And it's a nostalgia trip for me because I loved it, at similar age range, but also like I'm learning new stuff. But it's fun because my son is picking up Pokemon knowledge and telling me, like the other day he was like, "Oh, Daddy, I want to watch the episode with Trapinch," and I was like, "I don't know who that is, but I can try and find it for you." So we're scrolling through the thumbnails on Netflix, and he goes, "Oh, Dad, that's the one. That's the Trapinch episode." And I said, "Okay, cool. Let's put it on." I was like, "You like this episode, huh?" He goes, "Yeah, Trapinch, he evolves into Vibrava." And I was like, "Cool. That's awesome, buddy." And I like looked it up on my phone really quick. I have a little Dex on my phone. Sure enough, Trapinch into Vibrava. I had no idea. I was like, "That's cool, buddy. That's awesome. What does he turn into?" Just out of curiosity, like see if he knew. Oh, Vibrava turns into Flygon, but Flygon's the last one. He doesn't turn into anybody. It's like, man, that's crazy. Like, that. And like, I had no idea, to be honest with you. I had no clue, but he's got his own little set of Pokemon knowledge, and he's like teaching me stuff, and we get to kind of experience like that nostalgia. I hope that eventually, down the line, if he's ever in a podcast, he talks about how Pokemon was a cool thing he shared with his dad.
It's amazing how much the kids kind of learn. So my kids come to me, he'll say stuff to me, and I'm like, "Well, so when did you learn that?" He came home, he said, "Hey, let's play checkers." And I'm like, do you know what checkers is? He's like, "Yeah, I learned today at school. I know what checkers is." He's 4. And sure enough, he knew. And I was like, "Oh, all right, great. We know checkers now." It's just out of nowhere.
That's cool. That's really cool.
All right, let's move to game 2, and I can't wait to hear what tragedy strikes here. As we talk about the original Destiny, I believe. You said Destiny, so I'm going with the original Destiny.
Yeah. And it is the original Destiny. I like 2 as well. It's fun. It's a good time, but it was really Destiny 1 that was like another standout, more emotional tie to a game than anything. In 2013, 2014, so late 2013, I moved to Texas from California. I born and raised in California, went to school here, and then moved out there just on a whim. But at the same time, had a couple of my buddies. We all have like this group that we've been gaming and playing and hanging out since early high school, freshman year ish. That's 23 years ago now, that we've been all kind of gaming together, and actually one of the guys in the group I've literally known since first grade, and like he was the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man at another guy's, another one of the group members' weddings. Like, it's crazy. So we're very close, and a couple of them moved to Portland area. I moved to Texas. One of them moved down to San Diego, and like a couple of them stayed kind of around the Orange County area in California, and we were all just like split up. And it was the first time that we weren't all able, like within a few phone calls, to like hang out with each other. And we had all bought PS4s, like pre-ordered them. We were waiting for them, to get shipped out. And Destiny, if I remember correctly, was supposed to be at least semi a launch title for PS4. It got delayed a couple times. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it got pushed to like early 2014. Regardless of when it actually launched, it was one of those things where we were all very excited about it. It was a unique kind of, supposed to be like, oh, you're this guardian, and there wasn't a whole lot of like solid info on like, oh, you go do these missions and you're going to play with other guardians and complete these missions. And we were like, oh, cool, we're all going to pick it up because we all played everything else together. Might as well pick this one up and see what it's about. And it ended up being one of those games that like kept our group together. We actually made it where every Thursday night we would do a raid, regardless of whatever else happened. Like I was working 3 jobs at the time, and I know all my other buddies were super busy, but regardless of what was going on, every Thursday night we dropped everything and we did a raid, like right at whatever it was, 6 o'clock or whatever. We made it. But like, different time zones, different parts of the country. And it was just one of those things where we were able to all stay and like bond together. And like, dude, 9 times out of 10, it did not matter what we were doing. Sometimes we didn't even raid. We were just, going off doing other missions and grinding the game together and just having a blast, because that's what we were able to do. It was really cool to like keep our, not that our friend group would have dissolved by any means, but it's just this game that like kept us together for years. And like to this day, every once in a while, we'll still jump on Destiny if, outside of other games, but it was a cool game to like keep us all together. And while I'm on the point, I gotta shout out my boys, Noble Experiment, Triple Entendre, The Sylvester, Vicious Solutions, Schmel Content, and Christina Marie. That's my fire team. We're Fire Team 1776, and I love those boys with my life.
Right, I don't think we've ever had like a full-blown string of shout-outs there. That's awesome.
There's a lot of new things happening tonight on this podcast, and I'm loving it.
This is taking turns I did not expect. Oh, man. Well, so what was your role in the group? What was your class? Were you Titan, Warlock? Were you tanking? What? Or are you going to give us?
I was Warlock.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to Gargada again. I should have called Warlock. Now I'm getting the same look.
I was Warlock, and my main role was Bullet Sponge. Is just what I did. That was I'm notoriously bad at video games. I guess I wouldn't say bad at video games. I'm aggressively mediocre at literally everything I play. I've not hit like the upper or lower. Like I'm not great at any video game, and I'm not like terrible at any. I'm just like right in the mid of almost every game I played, but especially first-person shooters. So I just kind of play the role that hey, Garrett, go there and kill those guys. Cool, I'll be out there. But you're probably going to have to res me a couple times. That's just how it's going to go.
Garrett, you and I have to have a jack of all trades, master of none off sometime. Just you versus me in like 27 different games. 100%. And see who just does the most average in the most games.
I'm going to start calling myself aggressively mediocre. That's my new phrase. I am aggressively mediocre.
Yep. I really love that phrase. I picked that up off of a buddy of mine a few years back, and it just describes me very, very accurately sometimes.
Something tells me there's going to be a lot of people that feel that way. I feel it's just, you have your pro gamers in all kinds of games and whatnot, and then I know there are people that don't play games as well as me, but I don't feel like I'm great. But there's a group of us, people here who are playing games, that we all feel like we're really good sometimes, and then really terrible at times. Aggressively mediocre. Yeah, that's where we are.
But because I'm highly competitive, I can't take that away from myself or out of myself. I have to compete.
Yeah.
So like I'm putting myself up against all these other high caliber players. I usually land in the middle. It's, Rocket League. I know we're going to touch on Rocket League, but in Rocket League, I'm champ level, which is dead center, or at least mostly center. It's a little higher than center, but it's still very center.
I'm going to call it higher. I'm going to call it higher to center. As somebody outside of the Rocket League, I'm calling that higher to center.
That's fair.
All right, let's go to game 3 here. Game 3, The Binding of Isaac. And now I have questions because I read, we're chatting, and you talk about this game a lot. I know you're always on this, so we're going to start with this. How many hours do you have in this game? You can break it up by system, because I know you have it on multiple systems too. This is the crazy part. So we need to start there for people that don't know the obsession with Binding of Isaac. Tell me the hours.
Oh man, I would say it's probably in the mid 2000s. It's probably like 2000, 2500.
That's across all the systems, right?
Yeah, because I have it on Switch. I played it a ton on Steam. I used to, when I was streaming it a lot, I would play it on Steam. But I originally found it on PlayStation. It was at one point, it was a free-to-play game on PlayStation. And I actually picked it up. I almost want to say it was the same day I picked up Rocket League, which was way like right when, it was early on the PS4 launch, because I remember having that for a long time. But I remember it being, I would never have paid money for it. Looking at it in the store, I was like, that's the weirdest game ever, but it's free. I'm gonna download it. Like, and what's weird about this game is it's such a uniquely like niche and cult classic type of game. Like, I have talked about it to dozens and dozens of people, and the weirdest thing is, like, if someone knows about Binding of Isaac, they either love it or they played it once and dropped it. And that's like the two extremes. I don't know anybody that has like played it just sparingly enough and just like casually plays it. Where like, oh, I play it here and there. It's like, no, if you like this game, you're on like my level of obsession with it, or you've played it a handful of times, it's not for you, you didn't like it and you dropped it like a long time ago.
I definitely played it a handful of times. My youngest brother was super into it. I remember he turned it on. He's like, I'm playing this game, Binding of Isaac. I'm like, great, what's it about? He's like, I do this thing and then I lose eventually, but then I start over and it's different. I think it was the first time I actually ever heard a game like that, the whole dungeon crawler thing. And he's explaining this game to me and I'm watching. I'm like, man, this is all over the place. But he seems to know what's going on. I played it. I think it was weird. It was like a free like mini version of it on some random website. I couldn't tell you where it was. And I tried it and I was like, it was all over. So are you playing, because there's the Binding of Isaac and then there was the like a remake of it, right?
There's like further versions of this thing.
Yeah. Rebirth gave it an actual kind of ending to the story, right? Because the original it's kind of up in the air. They hint at what happens in it, right?
So it's kind of a weird thing. It's basically always been the same game, and I'm using air quotes. Like, it's always been the same game. They just add to it. And so, like, when you're talking about like, so the first version I picked up was Binding of Isaac Rebirth, which was the free to play on PlayStation when it first dropped.
2014.
Okay, are you looking that up? Because that's great.
I got a lot of tabs open.
Yeah. So when I first picked it up, that was the version I played, and I actually still have it on my PlayStation. I never updated it. But I played that version a ton, and it was a lot of like me and my buddy Tony, one of my best friends that I had in Texas. He would come over, we just have some drinks and we just play games or just watch TV shows, whatever. We just chill. And a lot of nights ended up with us trying to play this game, and it was really, we couldn't really figure it out because it's always random. It was the first time I'd ever seen that. Procedurally generated maps, procedurally generated items. It was my very first roguelike, and I didn't even know what a roguelike was at that time. And so we're playing this game like, man, this is weird. The subject matter really funky. Like, B, like the items are weird. Everything's like, it changes all the time. I don't know how people play this game, but we had made it pretty far as like, down different levels of the, of progression. And then I think one or two times we ended up beating Mom, which is like in the very early stages of the game. That's the end game.
Right.
And so like, oh, I beat Mom. That must be it. Cool. What a cool little free game I got to play. Mm-hmm. And it was weird because I thought that was it. I thought that was, all there was to do. You unlock characters here and there and you do it with the different characters and that's fine. But like, I thought it was a very small, very short game. And then obviously there was a lot more to it that I didn't understand yet. And really, I didn't start understanding any of that until I started watching. So a buddy of mine, I had moved, back to California from Texas. I had really kind of forgotten about the game. Hadn't really played it in a long time. And my buddy goes, hey, guess what game they have on Switch now? Now that you have a Switch, you got to try Binding of Isaac again. I'm like, man, I haven't thought about that game in a couple of years. Like, that's crazy that they have, that obviously a little bit nostalgic, right? Of, I want to try this game again to see if I can play it. So I started playing it on the Switch, and then I started like at that era was like right when I started like watching streamers and like watching YouTube things to try and like get tips and stuff. So I started following a couple of streamers. There's a couple big ones, but one I still follow to this day. Her name's Comment Bagel. She's like phenomenal at the game. But I started watching her play it, and it's like, I've never even seen that. Like, I've never even seen that level. What is that level? And she was like, oh, well, that's, when you get past this and when you get past this, then you end up here. And it's like, I didn't even know those things existed. I have to do a bunch of research. Like, I started doing a ton of like independent research on this game. And there's like, okay, you have to beat Mom 5 times. And when you do that, that opens up 2 more levels past Mom. And then you got like Mom's heart, and you got to beat Mom's heart a few more times before it unlocks, the pathways up or down. You can do there. It is insane, the game knowledge you have to even like get further into the game and actually experience all of the end games. It's wild how much there is to the game. Like, people would be like, oh, I beat Mom a couple of times. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Nice. Good for you. Like, that's super cool. Quaint. Like, you like it enough to play that, right? Like, that's and great. Like, awesome. I love that you're having fun with it. Now, I'd be happy to show you more, but that's very early,
That's how I feel with Hades. Mm-hmm. Like, I beat it. Like, hey, keep going. Like,
yep. Yeah,
you beat story 1.
And that's such a cool thing that I love about roguelikes is like the development of the game and how much it opens up. It literally like that type of game blossoms like a flower when you play it, and you just get more and more and more every time you go back to it. And the fact that like you just have this infinitely replayable thing where it's always different. I did. So Rebirth was to go back to your original question. Rebirth was a thing, and then on top of that was Afterbirth, and then Afterbirth Plus, and then Repentance is the newest version, and they're saying that that's the final one, which I wouldn't be surprised if they actually held true to that, because really I don't know what else they would add, and if they did add it, I think it would just like kind of dilute the experience a little bit. So, but yeah, it literally is just adding things. So like in this newest edition called Repentance, they added like a few more playable characters, and then they added like an alternate version of every other playable character that already existed. So it added tainted characters, right? The tainted characters, yeah. And so like they added all these other versions of the characters. So it's like unique new experiences. They also added 2 more end game pathways and bosses that you can fight. So it literally just built off of Afterbirth Plus. So it's they call it different things. It's basically just with the DLC is the way to kind of explain that.
So it have 34 characters, it says. Now I don't know. Yeah. Is that 34 and then 34 tainted version too? Is it 30, or is it like 17 and 17?
It's 17 and 17. Yeah.
How many have you finished the game with?
I've finished all of the non-tainted, and I've finished a good majority of the tainted. So in total, there's what they call secrets, and there's 637 secrets in the game. Whether that's like doing a completion with a character, like and all the end game completions with characters, or there's like hidden things where it's like, oh, there's these little pills in the game, and take 5 gulp pills in a run, and you'll unlock this new secret. And so like there's little, or beat this certain end game boss within 20 minutes, or X, Y, and Z. There's lots of different little challenges that equate to like unlocks and secret completions within the game. And what's sad for me as a completionist is I actually 100%ed Afterbirth Plus, and then so I had actually completed everything for Afterbirth Plus, 100% filed the game, and then Repentance came out, and now I'm like the completionist in me is like, oh, okay, crap, now I have to do this. Now I'm obligated to do this because I had a completed file, and now it's not a completed file. So yeah.
So when you get off, and I'll finish it with this, when you get the new game, like Repentance, and you have your file, everything's completed, will it just add on to that file, and it'll just say now you're not 100%?
No, so that's it, right? Like it'll tell you like stop playing. It'll tell you on that file and I won't do this. I know people that have and are pushing for it, but there's 3 save files, and it'll say 1 down, 2 to go, and I won't do it. Like I won't. That's so much of a grind. I already, like I said, I have probably 2,000 hours in the. I have like 1,600 or something just on my Switch. So so that's like me grinding the game for about 1,600 hours. So like I'm not putting that many more hours into 2 more files. It's not going to happen. It will be unfortunate because I will feel like I need to, but I'm not going to. Touch on your previous question is I think I have 589 of the 637 secrets. So I'm like the majority of the way there. I only have a couple more characters to complete before getting the 100% file. It is my gaming white whale, and I am like dedicated to finishing it this year. I want to like do it before the end of the year.
On to honorable mentions, where we're going to talk about a few extra games that did not make the original list of 3. We're going to start off with a pair of games here, with Fable 1 and 2 tied together for the original Xbox. We could drop 3 in here if you want. I saw that was a quest response for you about your first significant other game. I kid, but original Xbox run here. Xbox big on the morality system. But why'd you pick these as your first 2 games here to hit the honorable mentions with?
So it is 1 and 3. I don't know if you wanted to amend that. It is 1 and 3.
I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with numbers.
It's okay. It's all good. No, so picking 1 and 3, 1 specifically because, I mean, I think for me, I think that was one of the first games that I had experienced where it was, kind of a choose your own adventure thing where the game and story changed depending on your decisions. Basically, you're not only did like the storyline change, but like your physical appearance changed, the way people treated you changed, the way you interacted with other characters changed. I found that to be a really interesting and unique, especially at least at that time. And for me, there may have been other games I just wasn't aware of, but that was the first one to me that had that like almost choose your own adventure set of mechanics built into it. Not only could I choose whether I wanted to do like a physical build where I have strong melee, or if I had like an endurance build and did long range like archery type stuff, or if I wanted to do the wizard end of things, you develop my magic skills. Like I could choose those are pretty common tropes within like that whole genre, but as far as like the good and evil side of things and how you decide to play that out and all of that, I fell in love with the story, fell in love with the concept of that whole choose your own adventure thing, and was a really neat and unique experience from my end. So Fable 1 for sure was one of my favorites for that reason.
So let's talk about Fable 3. So Fable 3, I think I know where this story's going based on that. How'd Fable 3 end up on here? Tell me about what happened. What happened with the significant other piece, especially here?
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where I loved Fable 1. I tried 2 and didn't love it as much, but then obviously wanted to try 3 just because it was in the same series, and I liked it enough. It was okay, it was good, but for whatever reason, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she wasn't really into video games. She watched me play a lot, but she never like played it herself. She used to play like Sims and stuff like that back in the day, but it isn't a huge game. Still to this day isn't. But it was really neat when I like loaded that one up and started playing. She goes, that looks like a lot of fun. I might want to try that. And so she started actually immediately I canceled my file. I put it over to a new file, gave her the controller and let her run with it. And it was cool because I think there's elements of like, because I know at some point there's like a money management, inventory management. You got to like buy properties and make more money. And ultimately the goal is to win enough money to like pay off this big debt. I don't remember 100% of the details on it. I wasn't my favorite game, but at the end of the day, I think there were a lot of like Sims aspects to it where you could like, you could have a dog and things like that, where there was like a lot of little things that like she really enjoyed. And so for me, it was just any chance I have to like share a hobby like that is a really kind of cool thing. We're actually running into that now with Hogwarts Legacy, where she's a big Harry Potter fan too. So we're getting that opportunity to kind of game together again. But for sure, Fable 3 had to make it in there simply because it's a shared fun experience for me and my now wife. But yeah, she grinded that thing even when I'd leave for work and she'd stay at my apartment. She'd play and I'd come home from work. She's still sitting there playing by herself. I'm like, man, you grinding this thing, like pretty funny. It was the first time I'd ever seen her like actually game.
What I'm learning is that every person's wife is a huge Harry Potter fan. This is what I've actually been learning for the past 2 weeks. My wife included, who is off spending hours decorating the room requirement and petting cats and looking for animals to join her. That's how she's playing.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to get too deep into it yet, just time wise. But yeah, she has enjoyed a lot of. Had to help her through a little of the tutorial. We might drop it down a little difficulty level. She's on normal right now. We might push it to the easy side of things.
Oh, my wife is playing on story mode.
Yeah,
and very happily playing it on story mode.
I think she'll have a little more fun doing that. But yeah, just finding the time to do it, especially we have 2 young kids. So it's sometimes after they go to bed, it's like, hey, let's just put something on Netflix and just take it on the couch. Just chilling. But yeah, Fable 3 had to make it on there simply with that one. And as a sidebar, she will absolutely kick my butt at Mortal Kombat. Button mashes like crazy. Doesn't know what she's doing, but she will beat me almost every time.
The victory screen says she does.
That's right.
Exactly.
The victory screen says she does.
Yeah.
All right, we move on. One more honorable mention. Somehow it made it all the way down here. Just made it on the list for today. Rocket League. And Rocket League, it's not in your top 3 games.
It's it would have been an easy one to say Rocket League in any one of those situations, and for good reason. I think there's a lot of reasons why it should maybe be a top game for me, but. Yeah, I felt like it was almost just a gimme for that, So I wanted to highlight some of the things, but Rocket League has been a very special thing for me for a lot of different reasons. One of the biggest things is that my brother got me into it. So I downloaded it when it was free to play on PlayStation. Same way I found Isaac. Kind of messed around with it for a little while. Didn't really touch it a whole lot. There was a moment when I was setting up my controller bindings in Rocket League because I was starting to get okay at it, just kind of feeling out and just kind of enjoying it. And there was a moment where I wanted to get off the ground and start flying. And because I started noticing that was the next level, that was the next step I had to take. And somehow I bound my boost button to the same button of air roll. And so I would get up and I didn't know this. So I'd jump off the ground and I'd boost toward the ball and I'd start spinning out of control and wildly and accurately flying at the ball. And I'm like, man, this isn't any fun. Like, this is crazy. How did anybody control it? Like, if it's going to take that kind of dedication to try and control this thing. And now, obviously, that's the meta, right? You got to spin while you're in the air. You got to do it. But like, there's a level of like learning curve there. You got to learn to fly first, then you can learn to spin and fly. But like, I didn't know at all. And so I only played it for a couple of months and then dropped out and installed. I've installed it for years. And it wasn't until almost the time that my son was born. It was like right around the time. So it was like 2017. So I dropped it for a good 2 years. And my brother, my youngest brother, Austin, otherwise known as Ginkleberg, he's been around Channel 3. He's on Channel 3. I don't know how active he is. He's just not a huge social media guy, but he's around. But yeah, Ginkleberg, he reached out to me. He's like, dude, I've been playing this game. It's awesome. You got to try it out again. And so I told him the whole story. He's like, no, here, I'll put you onto some good like button controls and you gotta try it again. It's a lot of fun. We can play together. So at this point, he's already high rate. Anything this kid touches, he's good at. He's just one of those guys. He's very smart too, and it's a physics-based game. And he's studying physics in college. So like that's his deal. He loves Rocket League. And so we get starting to play together again. And obviously it became a really easy game for me to play when I had my newborn, because it's hey, 5 minutes in, if I can load casual, if he's kind of fussy or whatever, I can just load casual and bail if I need to. So it was a really easy, like, I can drop it if I need to. You're not getting, at that time, Destiny 2 is that, just kind of starting to come out, and like, I'm not going on hour-long missions. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have the time to do it. And so Rocket League was a really cool thing to pick up. And so my brother and I played a lot. And then, it's even to this day very similar to Destiny, where I bonded with all my buddies. Even just last week after the Tuesday tournament, me and my brother pops into my Discord and we're just chilling. We load up a 1v1 and we're both having a couple of drinks or whatever, and we're playing and just chatting. We're just talking because he lives up north. He doesn't live near me, so we don't get to like hang out a lot. But the idea that we can just like load into a ones match and we're just messing around. He's way better at it than I am, so he's just like going for weird shots, and like I'm kind of sweating trying to keep up with him, but it's okay. But like it's just the ability to like just sit and chat with my brother is like such a cool like format of like hanging out with someone, and like just to be able to bond with him over that. But I mean, not even just him, it's literally everybody. Without Rocket League, I don't find Channel 3. Like, right, without Rocket League, I wouldn't have found the dad or the dad gaming, which means I don't, maybe don't find Channel 3 and I'm not here. So like Rocket League is a huge thing. Like I've met some lifelong friends through like the dad gaming and Channel 3 now, which I mean, I had a whole bunch of them over at my house when they all flew into town to go to the LAN event last year when it was in LA. I live fairly close to the stadium that it was at, so like they all kind of crashed and we partied here at my place. So like cool, unique, interesting way to like bond with people. So not only a good game, but like more the life experiences that it's brought me has been just priceless would be the best word to say that.
So we touched on this a little bit, and you kind of talked about it now. Is this a game you can play yourself, kind of just to relax, or does it always feel like when you're playing, you're grinding towards the next rank, or you're just trying to work and keep up? Like, can you play it either way? Because I'll say this, like for me, it's that's Super Smash Bros. To me. And that game has the learning curve there. Some people like anyone can play, and I'm like there's a big curve to that one. And if it'll get hard sometimes. For me, sometimes it feel hard. I don't relax playing Super Smash Brothers. Like I go off and play other things to relax.
Sure. I get that. I kind of feel the same way. The only way that I relax when I'm playing is either if I know I'm in a pretty heavily, like with me and my brother playing, like that absolutely is relaxed. Like I'm kind of pushing it just to see if I can get away with something on him because he's much better than I am, but more just of the relaxed vibe. Or if we set it up to where we're playing like a 6-man private lobby where it's just a mixed rank of people and everybody's just on Discord just giving each other hard times. We're playing and we're probably playing hard, but also like it doesn't matter because we're all just BSing and just kind of going back and forth and it doesn't matter. That I can casually play. But even if I'm playing by myself or if I'm playing, in any kind of like the casual or ranked modes in the game, I'm sweating because that's just me. Like I'm just competitive. I can't turn that part of my brain off. Just like you said, it's just I'll go play other things if I wanna chill and relax.
And so last Rocket League question, do you have a passion for creating brackets? I feel like I have to ask this question with all the people that make jokes each week. I read them and I think they're hilarious. But tell me about the bracket creation.
You know what, man? It really is just a passion for the people that play. It has nothing to do with keeping numbers or stats or anything like that, or brackets. I think there's a level of perfectionism that says, oh, I want like really balanced, even teams, and obviously like I want that because I want the level of competitiveness to be there and fairness to be there. But at the end of the day, and I know like it's been through a million different changes and iterations. I mean, back when we first started, I was literally writing it on paper, just doing brackets based on whoever showed up. And then we started going to we did challenge, and now we do, the whole system within C3 that Joel has built, and man, makes my life way easier. But, we've gone through a lot of it, and, a lot of, player-based changes and people come and go, but ultimately the reason I come back literally every week, and I've been doing it since week 1, and we're on 178 this coming Tuesday, 178 weeks. So, more than 3 years in is the only reason I show up is for the people that play, and just so that we can have a good time and hang out together. And I mean, same reason we started doing it in the first place. Hey, let's throw a tournament together, see what happens. Let's get some guys together, just hang out and have fun with it. And that's where the passion is. As I wouldn't say I'm even good at numbers. It's more of just I just like to see people have fun.
Well, Garrett, normally this is the spot in the podcast where I say, let's talk about a future game, a game we're looking forward to, but I have to refer to this as a future-ish or future adjacent section here. As you had a bit of a request here. Hi-Fi Rush is the future game you want to talk about, which of course, even by the time we're recording this, already released. It was a bit of a shadow drop though. A nice little benefit of the Xbox, Microsoft, Bethesda merger there. Early game of the year discussion. You've got it downloaded. You're ready for it. You just haven't cracked the rhythm game yet.
Yeah. It's definitely a game I'm looking forward to. It's I've really kind of kept myself hidden from it. I don't want to know a ton about it going into it. I know that it's the rhythm based, and I know it's got a really cool art style. A really, really big fan of how it looks and how it appears to play. I've heard a lot of really good things as far as just people reviewing it saying, oh, it's a lot of fun, or it's, this or that. Like, it feels light. One of the coolest reviews I saw is that it felt like a game is like, it feels like gaming is like how you're supposed to enjoy a video game. It doesn't feel too serious or take itself too seriously. So like, I'm pretty excited about just something that's a little more lighthearted, but ultimately it comes down to, I've played, and you've may have even seen some posts about like Metal Hellsinger and Bullets Per Minute, where those are other games that are beat based or however rhythm based that are very interesting games and something that was right up my alley. Bullets Per Minute even being a roguelike. I don't know if Hi-Fi has roguelike aspect to it. I don't think it does. I think it's pretty story driven. But yeah, man, it just looks like a really fun game. I think that beat aspect to like an RPG or like a that type of game is a really interesting way to kind of integrate the beat and rhythm style game. Where dude, I loved Guitar Hero growing up. I think we all probably played it, Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and all that. And so it's cool to see that idea being implemented into some games now where it's like it's not the normal place you'd see it. It's a pretty cool concept.
It's funny with this one. It's already got some 5-star rating action on Channel 3, so it's in a low count 5-star club. A lot of game of the year discussions. I'm just kind of curious. I really want to hear after you play it. Two things I have to ask though here. First of all, one, how are you going to keep this from going into the backlog and staying on the shelf dusty forever, digitally speaking? As he shakes his head in the audio medium.
That's a tough question. Yeah, dude, I'm shaking my head. My backlog is massive.
First of all, Dan, how dare you?
First of all, no, it's that's a great question. I think it's especially hard because I didn't pay anything for it because I guess technically I didn't, but
it's amazing how they sucker us in with that Netflix and Game Pass and like, oh no, we didn't pay for it. It's all good, even though we're paying for it monthly anyway. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, it's it'll probably be one of those things where it's like a random night where I'm just not feeling like, except I have such a default to either play like Rocket League or Binding of Isaac are like my two. If I'm sitting down at my computer and nobody else is on or playing anything, I'm like, all right, I might as well just like load up some Rocket League or something and play that. But it'll probably be one of those weird nights where it's like, maybe I'll try something new. So hopefully soon, because I don't know. Obviously, there's never a timeline on like how long these things stay in the Game Pass and how quickly they leave. But yeah, I think I'll play it sooner than later just because of some of the great reviews and some of the great experiences I had with like Metal Hellsinger and Bullets Per Minute. It's a unique thing that I want to try versus something that's like, and I'll use this as a parallel as like Hogwarts Legacy. Like, yes, that's a cool thing because it's it's Harry Potter, but like there's nothing outside of Harry Potter theme that's like super unique to it, I guess, where it's like this Hi-Fi game is like the rhythm bass with a really interesting art style and might be kind of a cool unique story that I've never heard before. So kind of there's a push there to dive into it before the rest of my backlog anyway. I think there's some excitement with it too, because you didn't have to hear about 5, 7, 10 years worth of development, it feels like, for some games at this point. Like, right. It's here one day.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Like you said, it's kind of like a shadow drop, right? Like there wasn't a huge announcement with it. I and surprisingly, like I didn't get anybody sending it to me like, oh dude, can't wait for this one to come out or whatever. Like, it's kind of just like this weird, like, oh cool, all of a sudden this is a thing. Like, that's neat. It's kind of like for me, if you've ever even looked at it as Neon White, someone recommended it to me and was like, "You haven't heard of Neon White?" I'm like, "No, why would I?" And they dropped the trailer for it. It's like, "Oh, releasing, in a week." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm going to be playing that," because I had no idea it existed. And then all of a sudden, this really cool concept is here. So Neon White's another cool one if you haven't played that.
I think that was Annapurna too. They keep dropping games in that are just like, hey, really good game. We're just here. We're kind of doing our thing on the outside. Enjoy and move on. All right, on to a question from the Channel 3 history books. I'm tossing you a bit of a softball. We don't give anybody a heads up about what we're asking here. I think this one's already come up a few times, though. Going to ask you, what's your favorite game of the current generation of systems?
Ooh, favorite game, current gen. Metal Hellsinger. Honestly, so for the same reasons I'm excited about the Hi-Fi Rush is the Metal Hellsinger was it felt almost like a better sequel to what BPM was, Bullets Per Minute. I don't know if you ever played that one, but Bullets Per Minute was like a roguelike that was beat based, that was, first person shooter, procedurally generated, random items, those types of things. And it was Metal Hellsinger now it's more of a linear story based gameplay. It has no roguelike elements to it, but it is very, very unique in the beat bass, obviously the rhythm bass, but like just the fact that they used all of their own, they composed all of the music in-house, and they used all of they have like a whole bunch of big name metal from like the whole like metal scene. They brought in a bunch, like what's his face from System of a Down, I can't remember his name now, but
Surge.
the guy that Surge from System of a Down, they brought like him in to do a track with their in-house band, and they like he is one level of Metal Hellsinger, or at least that track backs that level, and it's just a cool like unique experience. And I think any time you have that much creativity and originality going into a game behind just with such a passionate dev team behind them, like I was following them on Twitter for like weeks leading up to the launch, and man, their devs were just like they just like had this passion just like oozing from every tweet, like, please play our game, we worked so hard on it, like love this game, put my heart and soul into it, like we can't wait for you to experience it. Like, so for me, it was more of a smallish dev team putting a bunch of passion into it, which made me kind of lean on, hey, this is a really cool, unique experience that like I really think everybody should at least try once. And they keep adding stuff to the game. They added the ability to add your own tracks to the game. So if you want to like play the levels to like your own music, you can. I haven't tried it yet, but it's just a really cool, really, really neat, interesting game. And I think, for being newish gen, I think that's one that everybody should try.
And we move on. Last question of the show is, what has been your favorite feature on Channel 3 so far?
Oh man. Well,
you're allowed to say the bracket. It's okay.
I'm a little biased. And I think there's a really cool potential for, I mean, obviously it was, me and Joel and JSU were, kind of the, at least in our group chat, me and those two were just chatting constantly about, hey, what does it need? What can make it better? And here to test this, or here to try that. We're still going through it. We're still adding and improving things. And Joel is just beyond amazing at doing his thing. But the tournament stuff, there's just so much potential for anybody to hopefully in the future, just kind of go in and create an event and have it all be in one place. Cause we were using website after Google spreadsheet after this and that and the other thing, all of these elements to try and put together a tournament. And now it's all in one place. And it makes my life a lot easier on Tuesdays and just, the team creation and substitutions and, really don't have to find something. It ultimately just made my life a ton easier on Tuesdays, which is, I have to say the tournament section, because that's ultimately, something I've kind of helped work on, but also I utilize it every week, and it's just a really, really cool feature. So
that's very fair. Dan and I just used it yesterday. We told Joel, I was like, hey, we need that Swiss bracket just without teams. He was like, oh yeah, sure. And it was ready. It was ready the same day we used it. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm with you 100%.
The funniest part, we used it for Marvel Snap, of course. So you get everything from Rocket League to Marvel Snap. The funnier part was my stupid whatever brain just notices he's doing the demo. He's showing us everything as he's going through Saturday morning, and I'm like, did you set that bracket up with Pokemon Snap as the demo game? Like, you
Pokemon
can literally
Snap.
do anything. Yeah.
We could make a tournament on any game whatsoever. It's actually dangerous. I told Joel he can't give me these ideas because I'm gonna throw out I'm gonna put something ridiculous.
Yeah, you got to, man. You got to go a little crazy. But yeah, it's funny, man. Joel's been a madman on it. Like, it's actually fun because we were in a tournament. We had a tournament, I think it was 2 weeks back, that I ended up having to play in, and I say having to play, and I enjoy playing them, but just based on who showed up, the numbers required that I, add myself into a team, and so it was kind of cool because I got to use I got to see it from a player perspective versus just like the dev side, and it was really interesting because I told Joel, I was like, hey man, I'm getting this other part ready for the next round. I input my scores for the last game, but I'm finding that I need to like go back and like I have to go to like the sidebar menu and hit events and back to the bracket, like through like this long process. He goes, oh, well, there is actually a button up top that says back to bracket. And I was like, dude, I didn't even realize it was there, but it was just like a blue hyperlink. Like it wasn't anything.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it didn't catch my attention enough. And so I was literally just taking the long way back through like events and then, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no, you shouldn't do that. Just click back to the bracket. I was like, oh, cool. Is there any way we could make that bigger in the future? Like, hey, like, let's write this down. Like maybe like make it a different color or something like that. And he's like, does it need to be like that obnoxious yellow that that's for the edit scores? I was like, no, just make it like kind of blue, like the Channel 3 logo is. He's like, all right, cool. Okay, refresh your page. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, refresh. And I refresh, and all just right there, just like I told him, it was just this square button with blue. And I'm like, bro, it's mid-tournament. Like, I was putting that on notes. I was putting that on notes for next week. Like, you freaking just editing and just hot fixing things on the fly. Like, mind-blowing levels of, like, dedication and love being poured into it by Joel. So really, really cool to see that.
Yeah, Joel's an animal with the coding stuff. It's out of control. He just keeps going, and then I love it. I love watching it. And with that, we've made it to the end of another What Are Your Three podcasts. You can find a podcast at c3.gg/podcast. They drop every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you once again, Mad, Harry Rackham, Garrett himself. I am El Ray. Dan Tucker puts this together, and the executive producer, the one and only Joel Willis. Have a good day, everybody.